Caleb Vance wiped the sweat from his brow as he adjusted the wrench in his calloused hands. The scrapyard was quiet tonight, just the way he liked it. A half-moon hung low in the sky, casting pale light over the stacks of discarded ship parts, broken engines, and shattered hulls. This place wasn't much, but it was home. He worked alone, fixing what others threw away, selling parts to traders who barely looked twice at him. But Caleb didn't mind. He had no boss, no deadlines, just metal, wires, and the satisfying hum of a job well done. As he tightened the last bolt on an old generator, a noise caught his attention, a soft clank in the distance. He turned, squinting through the dimly lit scrapyard. For a second, he thought it was the wind shifting through the piles of junk. But then he heard it again. A footstep. Caleb's muscles tensed. The scrapyard wasn't exactly a high-security area, but thieves did wander in sometimes, hoping to snatch something valuable. He reached for the metal rod he kept nearby, just in case. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice steady but firm. Silence. Then, from behind a stack of old engine cores, a figure emerged. Caleb's grip on the metal rod tightened. The figure was covered in a long, dark cloak, the hood pulled low over their face. It was too small for a grown man, but moved with an unusual grace. Too smooth, too precise. "I'm not here to cause trouble," the voice finally spoke. It was soft, yet there was an edge to it, something foreign. The figure pulled back the hood slightly, revealing a face unlike any Caleb had seen before. Large, golden eyes gleamed under the moonlight, slightly slitted like a cat's. Blue-tinted skin shimmered faintly, and delicate, fin-like structures ran along the sides of her face. Definitely not human. An alien. Caleb had seen a few aliens in his time, mostly traders or workers passing through the station. But this one was different. She didn't wear the usual translator device, nor did she carry herself with the stiff posture of an off-world official. Instead, she looked wary, defensive, like she expected him to attack at any moment. "You're trespassing," Caleb said cautiously, keeping his grip firm on the rod. The alien girl's gaze flicked to the tool in his hand. "I only need a part," she said carefully, her words slow, as if she wasn't used to speaking his language. "Then I will leave." Caleb hesitated. This wasn't normal. Most aliens who needed parts went to the trade outpost, not some scrapyard on the outskirts. "What kind of part?" he asked. She stepped forward slightly, revealing a small handheld device, some kind of control module. It was cracked, wires sparking from the edges. "Power regulator," she said, holding it out. "Ship broken." Caleb frowned. If her power regulator was busted, that meant her ship wasn't going anywhere. No wonder she was desperate. Without that part, she was stranded. "I might have something," he said slowly, "but these aren't easy to come by." "You sure you can pay for it?" The alien girl hesitated. She glanced away, gripping the device tighter. That was enough of an answer. "No credits, huh?" Caleb sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Great. I can trade," she said quickly, stepping closer. "I have." Before she could finish, a distant whirring noise filled the air, a low, mechanical hum, growing louder. Caleb knew that sound. Scavenger drones. Someone else was out here. The alien girl stiffened. Her golden eyes darted to the scrapyard entrance. "Someone is coming," she whispered. Caleb swore under his breath. He didn't know who this girl was, but something told him she was in trouble. And now so was he. "Come with me," he muttered, grabbing her arm and pulling her toward his workshop. "Before they see us." She hesitated for only a second before following, disappearing into the shadows of the scrapyard. Tonight was going to be interesting. Caleb shut the heavy metal door behind them, locking it with a firm click. His workshop was small but packed with tools, spare parts, and half-finished machines. It smelled of oil and metal, the familiar scent of his work. The alien girl stood near the entrance, her golden eyes scanning the room quickly, like she was searching for danger. Caleb could tell she wasn't used to trusting people. "You can relax," he said, setting down the metal rod. "I don't turn people in. But I do need to know, why are you sneaking around my scrapyard instead of going to the trade outpost?" She hesitated before answering. "They would ask questions," she said slowly, choosing her words carefully. "They would not sell to me." Caleb frowned. "Why not?" The girl looked away. She seemed to struggle with her answer. "My people, not welcome here." That was enough for Caleb to understand. Some alien races had conflicts with humans, and the Vesari, if that's what she was, weren't exactly known for making friends. But he wasn't the type to judge someone based on where they came from. "All right," he said, crossing his arms. "Let me see the damage." She stepped forward, handing him the broken power regulator. Caleb turned it over in his hands, examining the cracks, the burnt wiring. It was worse than he thought. "This thing is fried," he muttered. "Even if I had a working one, it wouldn't be a perfect match for your ship's system." The alien girl's expression darkened. Then, no hope. Caleb set the part down and smirked slightly. "Didn't say that. I can make something work. Might not be perfect, but it'll get your ship running." She blinked, surprised. "You can do that." Caleb shrugged. "That's what I do. Fix things others think are useless." For the first time, her tense shoulders relaxed a little. But then she frowned. "I have no credits. I cannot pay." Caleb leaned against his workbench, thinking. He wasn't a charity, but something about this girl's situation felt wrong. He had seen enough desperate people to know when someone had no other options. "All right," he said finally. "I'll make you a deal. You help me in the workshop while I fix this. In return, I won't charge you." She looked at him, confused. "Help? How?" Caleb gestured to the mess of wires and tools on his workbench. "You know anything about ship repair?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Some. My people are builders." "Good," Caleb said. "Then let's get to work." Hours of sparks and effort. Time passed as they worked side by side. Caleb quickly realized she wasn't just somewhat skilled. She was brilliant. Her hands moved with precision, and she understood complex systems at a glance. "You're faster than most engineers I know," Caleb admitted as he soldered a circuit board. She glanced at him, her golden eyes unreadable. "Vasari build ships differently," she said. "More organic." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Organic." She pointed at the makeshift regulator they were assembling. "Human machines are metal, bolts, wires. Our ships grow." Caleb stared at her. "Your ships grow." She nodded. "They have structure like bones, power like veins." That was insane and fascinating. Caleb had heard rumors about Vasari biotech ships, but he never thought he'd meet someone who actually worked with them. "You know," he said, smirking, "you could probably make a fortune if you shared some of that knowledge." Her expression hardened. "My people would not allow it." Caleb caught the tension in her voice. There was more to her story, but he didn't push. Instead, he focused on their work. Eventually, after hours of rewiring, testing, and modifying, Caleb set down his tools. "All right," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "This should work." The alien girl looked at the new power regulator. It was bulkier than the original but functional. "You are sure?" she asked. Caleb grinned. Only one way to find out. Trouble on the horizon. Just as they were about to pack up, a loud thud echoed outside. Caleb froze. The alien girl's eyes widened. They weren't alone. Someone was out there, watching. Caleb's heart pounded as he turned toward the workshop door. The loud thud outside was not normal. It wasn't just the wind-shifting scrap metal. Someone was out there. The alien girl, still holding the makeshift power regulator, tensed. Her golden eyes flickered with alarm, her sharp senses likely detecting more than Caleb could. "Who is it?" she whispered, stepping back into the shadows of the workshop. Caleb grabbed a nearby wrench and slowly moved toward the door. He had dealt with scavengers before, thieves looking to snatch valuable parts. But this felt different. The noise had been deliberate, like someone wanted them to know they were here. Taking a deep breath, he cracked open the door slightly and peeked outside. The scrapyard was dimly lit, but he could see movement near the entrance. Shadows shifted between the towering piles of metal. Then, a red beam flickered through the darkness, a scanning light. Caleb's stomach dropped. Scavenger drones. Whoever was outside wasn't just some petty thief. They had tech, and that meant they were dangerous. He turned back to the alien girl. "We've got a problem," he muttered. She stepped closer, her expression serious. "They are searching for me." Caleb narrowed his eyes. "You sure?" She nodded. "My ship, it has valuable tech. If they scanned it, they know it's Vasari. That means they will try to take it." Caleb cursed under his breath. Great, just what I needed. The scrapyard had no real security. He never needed it. Until now. If these scavengers were after the alien girl's ship, they wouldn't leave without a fight. A plan of action. "We need to move," Caleb said. "If they get to your ship before we do, they'll rip it apart for parts." The alien girl tightened her grip on the power regulator. "Then we stop them." Caleb smirked. "I like the way you think." He quickly moved to a workbench and grabbed a small device, a signal jammer. It wasn't perfect, but it might mess with the drone's communication long enough for them to escape. "Follow me," he whispered. "Stay low." The two slipped out of the workshop, keeping to the shadows. The scrapyard was a maze of rusted metal, offering plenty of cover. Caleb led the way, moving swiftly through narrow gaps between old ship hulls. As they neared the ship, Caleb spotted two figures near the landing site, human scavengers. They wore patched-up armor, carrying rifles slung over their backs. One of them was fiddling with a datapad, likely trying to hack into the alien girl's ship. "We don't have time for a fight," Caleb muttered. The alien girl eyed the scavengers, her expression unreadable. "I can distract them." Caleb frowned. "That's risky." She met his gaze. "I am fast. If I lead them away, you can install the power regulator." Caleb hesitated. He barely knew this girl, but something told him she was telling the truth. And honestly, they didn't have many options. "All right," he said. "Just be careful." She nodded, and without another word, darted toward the scavengers. A dangerous gamble. As soon as she moved, she kicked over a pile of scrap metal, making a loud crash. The scavengers snapped their heads toward the noise. "What was that?" One of them growled. Before they could react, the alien girl sprinted past them, weaving through the scrapyard like a shadow. The scavengers cursed and gave chase. Caleb wasted no time. He rushed toward the ship, ducking behind debris as he moved. The ship was sleek and alien in design, its dark metallic surface glowing faintly with Vasari energy. He reached the power bay and quickly pulled open a panel. Sparks flew as he disconnected the damaged regulator and inserted the new one. His fingers worked fast, tightening bolts and connecting wires. Just as he secured the last component, a warning alarm blared from the ship's console. Caleb froze. The scavengers had triggered a security lock. "Damn it," he muttered. He wasn't a hacker. He couldn't override the system. But he didn't need to. He had her. "Time to come back, alien girl," he whispered, hoping she heard him. The final move. Almost as if she had read his thoughts, the alien girl appeared, breathing hard but unharmed. She had lost the scavengers, at least for now. "Is it ready?" she asked. "Yeah, but we've got another problem," Caleb said, pointing at the flashing security screen. "Can you bypass this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed her hand against the ship's surface. A soft blue light pulsed beneath her palm. A second later, the warning alarm stopped. Caleb stared. Okay, that was impressive. The alien girl smirked slightly. I told you. My people build differently. Before Caleb could reply, shouting erupted behind them. The scavengers had found them. No time to talk. Get in, Caleb yelled. They rushed into the ship as gunfire cracked behind them. The alien girl slammed the hatch shut and ran to the cockpit. Hold on, she warned. Caleb barely had time to brace himself before the ship lifted off. The scrapyard and the scavengers disappeared beneath them as the ship shot into the night sky. Caleb barely had time to secure himself before the ship jolted forward, engines roaring as they tore through the night sky. The sudden acceleration pressed him against the seat, and he gritted his teeth. He had never been in an alien vessel before, let alone one flying at full speed while escaping armed scavengers. The alien girl's hands moved swiftly over the controls, her golden eyes focused as she guided the ship upward, leaving the scrapyard and its dangers behind. Outside, the dark horizon blurred as the ship pushed toward the upper atmosphere. Caleb exhaled, trying to steady himself. That was way too close. The alien girl didn't respond at first, still adjusting the ship's navigation. After a few moments, she turned to him. We made it. He let out a dry chuckle. Yap, barely. Next time, let's plan things before we have to run for our lives. She tilted her head slightly, amused. That was the plan. Caleb shook his head with a smirk, but didn't argue. He glanced around the cockpit, finally taking in the strange but elegant design of the ship. The controls had no visible buttons, only smooth surfaces that reacted to her touch. Soft blue lights pulsed along the walls, as if the ship itself was alive. This thing is incredible, Caleb muttered. How does it even work? The alien girl hesitated before answering. It responds to energy. My people's ships are connected to their pilots. Caleb frowned. Wait, connected? Like the ship is part of you? She nodded. In a way, it understands my commands through neural links. That is why I could override the security so easily. Caleb leaned back, impressed. Humans don't have anything like this. She studied him for a moment, her golden eyes thoughtful. No, but you understand machines differently. Caleb raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She tapped the side of the console. This ship was damaged. You made it work again, without knowing how it was built. He shrugged. That's just what I do. Fix things. She gave a small nod. It is rare. Humans think differently. Caleb smirked. I'll take that as a compliment. A moment of truth. As the ship continued to rise, Caleb felt the tension in his muscles slowly fade. For the first time that night, they weren't in immediate danger. So, he said, stretching his arms. What now? Where are we heading? The alien girl's expression darkened. I do not know. Caleb frowned. What do you mean? You've got your ship back. Shouldn't you go home? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stared out the window, looking at the distant stars. Home is not safe for me. Caleb studied her carefully. He had suspected from the beginning that she was running from something or someone. Now, it was confirmed. You're not just a random traveler, are you? He asked. She hesitated before finally speaking. I was supposed to return to my people. They chose a future for me, one I do not want. Caleb crossed his arms. Let me guess, one of those your duty is more important than your choice situations. She glanced at him in surprise. Yes. He sighed. Yeah, I've seen that before. People forcing others into things just because it's the way things are. She looked at him, curious. And you? You live alone in a scrapyard. Did you also run from something? Caleb chuckled dryly. More like I walked away. I was supposed to work for a big corporation, fix their machines, follow their rules. But I didn't want to be just another worker in a system that doesn't care about people. So, I made my own path. The alien girl was silent for a moment before she spoke softly. You understand, then? Caleb met her gaze and nodded. Yeah, I do. A new proposal. Silence filled the cockpit as they drifted above the planet. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly before them. Finally, the alien girl turned to him. What will you do now? Caleb exhaled. Good question. I was planning to go back to my scrapyard, but he gestured around. Something tells me that's not an option anymore. She thought for a moment, then said something that surprised him. Come with me. Caleb blinked. What? She hesitated, as if unsure of her own words. I cannot return home. You have nowhere to go. We could travel together. Caleb stared at her. The idea was crazy. He had never left his planet before, never even considered it. But now, after everything that happened, the thought of going back to his quiet, lonely scrapyard didn't feel right. You're serious? He asked. She nodded. You fix things. I fly. Together, we can survive. Caleb considered it. A part of him wanted to say no, to go back to the familiar. But another part, the part that had always craved adventure, whispered why not. Finally, he grinned. All right, alien girl. Let's see where the stars take us. She smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't just caution or calculation. It was genuine. The ship turned, leaving the planet behind. Two strangers, now partners, heading into the unknown. The ship moved through the vastness of space, leaving the planet and all its dangers behind. Caleb sat in the co-pilot's seat, watching as the alien girl adjusted the controls with practiced precision. Stars stretched endlessly before them, distant and untouchable, yet somehow closer than ever. He let out a low whistle. I still can't believe I'm out here. Yesterday I was fixing broken generators in a scrapyard. Now I'm flying through space with an alien. The alien girl glanced at him, her golden eyes calm. Does it frighten you? Caleb smirked. Not exactly. Just unexpected. She nodded, as if she understood. It is the same for me. Caleb leaned back in his seat. So, where are we going? She hesitated, then spoke. I know of a place. A station, far from my people, far from yours. There we can find supplies and work. Caleb raised an eyebrow. You're saying we're going to be mechanics for hire? She nodded. You fix things. I fly. It is logical. Caleb chuckled. Logical, huh? Well, it beats waiting for scavengers to track us down. A shared mission. As the ship moved smoothly through space, Caleb's curiosity grew. He had spent his whole life fixing machines, but this was different. The ship itself was unlike anything he had ever worked on. He tapped the console. So this thing really responds to your thoughts. She nodded. It is connected to me. Caleb shook his head in amazement. That's wild. Human ships need buttons, switches, and 100 different systems. You just think, and it moves. It is more than thinking, she corrected. It is trust. The ship must recognize its pilot. Caleb smirked. And what about me? If I tried flying it, would it let me? She tilted her head, considering his question. Perhaps. Caleb grinned. All right. Let's test it. She blinked, surprised. Now, why not? He said, if we're going to work together, I should know how this thing flies. For a moment, she seemed uncertain. But then, slowly, she reached out and placed her hand over his. The moment she did, a strange sensation washed over him. A faint warmth, like static energy flowing through his skin. The ship trembled slightly. Caleb felt something. A presence, subtle but real, moving at the edge of his mind. It wasn't alive, not exactly, but it was aware. Whoa, he muttered. The alien girl studied him. It is sensing you. Caleb focused, gripping the console. He wasn't sure what to do, so he simply thought about moving forward. The ship responded instantly. A slow, steady shift. The stars tilted slightly. The controls beneath his hands hummed. He exhaled. This is incredible. The alien girl was watching him closely. "You are not Vasari, but you are accepted." Caleb grinned. "I guess machines just like me." A warning from the past. As they continued their journey, the ship's systems beeped, displaying a proximity alert. Caleb frowned. "What's that?" The alien girl checked the screen. Another vessel. Caleb tensed. "Scavengers." She narrowed her eyes. "No. Worse." Before he could ask, the ship's communication screen flickered to life. A stern, alien face appeared, a Vasari enforcer, his gaze sharp and unforgiving. "Zyra." The voice was cold. Caleb turned to her. "You know him." She clenched her jaw. "Yes." The enforcer continued, his expression unreadable. "Your ship was reported missing. You were ordered to return. Yet here you are, running." Zyra didn't respond. The enforcer's eyes flicked to Caleb. "And with a human." He spoke the word like an insult. Caleb crossed his arms. "Yeah, nice to meet you too." The enforcer ignored him. "You know what must be done, Zyra. Surrender, and you will be spared." Zyra's fingers tightened around the controls. "I will not return." The enforcer's face darkened. "Then you leave me no choice." Caleb's stomach dropped. "I have a bad feeling about this." Outside, the Vasari ship moved into attack formation. Zyra turned to Caleb. "Hold on." Then she pushed the ship into full speed. Zyra's fingers moved fast over the controls, and the ship responded instantly. The engines roared to life, pushing them forward at incredible speed. Caleb barely had time to brace himself as they shot through space, the Vasari enforcer's ship in pursuit. "All right, this is bad," Caleb shouted, gripping the seat tightly. Zyra remained calm, her golden eyes focused. "Hold on," she warned. A sharp turn sent Caleb's stomach flipping as the ship veered sideways, dodging a blast of energy from their pursuers. The Vasari ship was larger, heavier, but powerful. Its weapons glowed red as it fired again. The energy shot missed, barely scraping past their hull. Caleb exhaled in relief. "We need a plan." Zyra's expression was unreadable, but her hands never stopped moving. "We cannot outrun them forever, but we can outsmart them." Caleb glanced at the ship's interface. "Tell me you have weapons." Zyra shook her head. "This is a transport vessel, not a warship." "Of course it is," Caleb muttered. "Then we need another way." The Vasari ship fired again, and this time, the blast was closer. A warning alarm blared through their cockpit. Caleb gritted his teeth. "If we can't fight, then we need to hide." Zyra thought for a moment, then nodded. "There is an asteroid field nearby. If we reach it, they will not be able to follow easily." Caleb's eyes widened. "Wait, wait, wait." Asteroid field, as in flying through a bunch of giant, moving rocks. Zyra's lips curled slightly. "Yes." Caleb groaned. "I hate this plan." But there was no time to argue. Zyra adjusted their course, and ahead of them, a cluster of dark asteroids appeared, floating in space like a deadly maze. The Vasari ship kept firing, but Zyra pushed their ship forward, weaving between the massive rocks. The asteroids tumbled slowly, each one large enough to crush their ship if they miscalculated even slightly. Caleb held his breath as they dodged between two spinning asteroids, their hull just inches away from impact. "I really hate this plan." Zyra didn't respond. Her focus was absolute. She moved with precision, guiding the ship in ways that seemed impossible. Behind them, the Vasari ship hesitated. It was too large to navigate the asteroid field easily. Caleb saw their chance. "If we can get them to crash into one of these, we're home free." Zyra nodded. "Hold on." She suddenly banked left, heading straight for a particularly large asteroid. Caleb's heart pounded. "Are you trying to hit that thing?" Zyra remained silent, her grip steady. At the last possible second, she tilted the ship downward, narrowly missing the asteroid's surface. The Vasari ship, too large to react as quickly, clipped the side of the asteroid, sending debris scattering into space. The impact was not enough to destroy them, but it was enough to slow them down. Caleb watched as the Enforcer's ship struggled to regain control. That's our chance. Let's get out of here before they recover. Zira didn't need to be told twice. She fired the thrusters, speeding out of the asteroid field and into open space once more. The Vasari ship, now damaged and unable to keep up, finally gave up the chase. The warning alarms in their cockpit faded, and for the first time in what felt like forever, everything was quiet. Caleb let out a long breath. We made it. Zira nodded, relaxing her grip on the controls. Yes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The danger had passed. They were free. A new decision. Caleb turned to Zira. All right. So what now? That Enforcer's not going to stop looking for you. Zira's golden eyes darkened. I know. Caleb leaned forward. You never told me why they're after you. What's so important that they're willing to hunt you down across space? Zira hesitated, then finally answered. My people do not choose their own path. We are assigned roles from birth. Engineers, warriors, diplomats, even mates. I was given a role I do not want. Caleb frowned. And you ran? She nodded. Yes. That is why they chased me. To bring me back. To force me into a life I do not want. Caleb was silent for a moment, then sighed. Yeah, I get it. She looked at him, surprised. You do? Caleb smirked. I know what it's like to walk away from a life that others tried to choose for you. She studied him carefully. Then, for the first time, she smiled. A small, genuine smile. Caleb leaned back, crossing his arms. So we keep running. Zira shook her head. No, we find a way to fight back. Caleb raised an eyebrow. Fight back? Against your entire people? Zira met his gaze. If we do nothing, they will never stop. I need to be free. And you have nowhere to go. Caleb chuckled. Well, when you put it like that. He extended a hand. Partners. Zira hesitated, then took his hand. Partners. As the stars stretched before them, their journey was far from over. But now, they had a purpose. And together, they would find their own future. The stars stretched endlessly ahead as Zira and Caleb sat in the cockpit, their ship drifting in open space. The hum of the engines was steady. The warning alarms had faded, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they had a moment to breathe. Caleb leaned back in his seat, rubbing his temples. All right, so let me get this straight. You don't just want to keep running. You want to fight back. Zira nodded. If I keep running, they will never stop chasing me. They will send more enforcers, stronger ships. I must make them see that I will not return. Caleb exhaled. Sounds risky. It is, Zira admitted, but I cannot live in fear. Caleb smirked. Yeah, I get that. For a moment, they sat in silence, both lost in thought. Caleb knew she was right. Running forever wasn't an option. The Vasari enforcers would keep coming, and sooner or later, they'd catch up. So, he said finally, what's the plan? Zira turned to the navigation console, bringing up a holographic map. There is a station, a neutral zone. Many species go there, including humans and Vasari. If we can find allies, gather resources, maybe we can change things. Caleb raised an eyebrow. Change things. You're thinking big, aren't you? Zira met his gaze. I do not want to live by their rules. Maybe there are others who feel the same. Caleb thought about it. He had spent years fixing broken things. Machines, engines, old tech. But maybe this was different. Maybe she was different. He grinned. All right, I'm in. Zira tilted her head. You are sure? Caleb chuckled. I didn't come all this way just to go back to a scrapyard. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Then we go together. A dangerous arrival. The ship's navigation locked onto the coordinates, and soon the station came into view. It was massive, a floating city in space, surrounded by smaller ships and glowing with neon lights. Caleb whistled. "Looks busy." Zira guided them in, docking smoothly. As the hatch opened, they stepped out into the station's bustling corridors, filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Caleb adjusted his jacket. "All right, where do we start?" Zira glanced around. "We need information and a place to stay." They moved through the station, keeping a low profile. Zira kept her hood up, her golden eyes scanning their surroundings. Caleb could tell she was tense. After all, Vasarian forces could be anywhere. They reached a marketplace filled with traders selling everything from weapons to starship parts. Caleb's eyes lit up at the sight of old tech, but Zira stayed focused. Then, they overheard something that made them stop. Vasarian forcer ship docked earlier today. A merchant whispered to another. "They're looking for someone." Caleb's stomach dropped. They were already here. Zira's expression darkened. "We must move." They slipped into a quieter part of the station, but before they could make a plan, a voice echoed behind them. "Zira." They turned. It was the enforcer from before, standing with 2 armed guards. His expression was cold, unreadable. "You should not have come here," he said. Caleb clenched his fists. "You're really obsessed with following her." The enforcer ignored him. His gaze was locked on Zira. "Come now. End this foolishness." Zira stood firm. "No." The enforcer sighed. "You are making a mistake." Caleb stepped forward. "The only mistake is thinking she doesn't have a choice." The enforcer's eyes flicked to Caleb. "You are human. You do not understand our ways." Caleb smirked. "No, but I do understand freedom." For a moment, the tension was thick. But then, Zira did something unexpected. She took a step forward, her golden eyes steady. "I will not go back," she said firmly. "You cannot force me." The enforcer studied her, as if searching for weakness. Then, slowly, he exhaled. "Very well," he said. "You are no longer Vasari." Zira froze. Caleb frowned. "Wait, what does that mean?" The enforcer's voice was calm, but final. "She is no longer one of us. She has no home, no people. If she leaves, she can never return." Zira's hands tightened into fists, but she did not look away. Caleb stepped beside her. "Then she's not alone." For a moment, the enforcer said nothing. Then, with a simple nod, he turned and walked away, his guards following. Zira let out a slow breath. "It is done." Caleb glanced at her. "You okay?" She met his gaze. "I am free." Caleb grinned. "Then let's see what the universe has in store for us." Together, they walked deeper into the station, ready for whatever came next. Their journey was just beginning.